Hello and welcome, I'm DoitiEtok, and today we're going to be talking about the 18 villagers that have been revealed in Palia so far. These characters fill a variety of roles within the village and give us insight into how it will all function. That said, we will not be discussing how the game will work or what's in it. If you want that information, I made 2 videos on it a few months ago. That said, I don't want this video to be too long, so I will briefly read out some notes given about the characters and then quickly give my opinions or observations on them. Our first character is TAMALA, a potion maker in Bari Bay. She is also known for her beauty secrets, and we've been told that she may share some of these if we befriend her. She's also occasionally seen with the hunter, and one has already been revealed, so we're not going to dive too deeply into that yet. Now, from her character design, we see very large necklace, very big into the potion thing just on her hip, but an overall fairly, well, let's just say normal appearance, not overly gaudy. I personally like it. It's not that bad. Next up is Gel, who is a young adult, the first that we've met actually out of 2, and the youngest character of 6 of the Omiyata family. While we don't have any other info on members of this family, it's safe to assume that it'll play an important part moving forward, mostly because it's a named family. On top of this, he's also a tailor and lover of fashion, so expect to see him around, possibly as a shop owner. And here we also get to see a little bit more of a, let's just say, high fashion, definitely fashionable look to this young male. Our next character is another young adult, Gina, who is an apprentice scholar doing her thesis on the reemergence of humans like us. I would expect to see her play a decent role in the story, just because we're people and we come back after a really long time of disappearing. So yeah, on top of this, she also loves old books and has a golem companion. So the big thing that I notice with Gina especially is the bit of dirt on her outfit. She seems to be willing to go out and do whatever in order to find information. It will be really interesting to see how she is portrayed in the game and in the story. So speaking of golems, we have Einar, easily the oldest character we've seen thus far at over 3,000 years old. He runs a fishing shack, so I'll personally probably get to know him pretty well. He also collects shiny objects and gives pebbles as gifts. We also have a quick look at a concept art for their emotions. I should stress, though, that we don't know if Einar is the companion that Gina is talking about. It's just an interesting fact there. And with his design, I don't know how I feel about like the flat arms that are shown in the picture, but everything else, the like grass covering him, just the robotic frame, it all speaks to me. It's all pretty well done, especially love the straw hat. And now we have Najuma, a teenager who's not very talkative but loves explosives. They are an only child, and we know practically nothing about their family or current situations, although they are creative and love to blow stuff up. So the big thing that I noticed right away when looking at this character is not just the goggles, it's the mechanical leg. This seems to be saying something. We got the explosives character who's probably blown up part of their own leg, but this also says that there's also the technology to replace parts of limbs, so this gives me hope looking forward that we're going to get a nice look at the world and how that works just from the prosthetics here. Besides that, the character does look interesting, but also looks like they'll bring quite a bit of trouble to us. And finally, we have ASHURA, Now I say finally because the dev team has posted a lot of jokes and memes with this character involved. He is an older adult and likely an ex-adventurer who now runs the inn, so expect to see him quite a bit. It's difficult with ASHURA specifically. I do like the tattoos. They definitely give him his own little vibe. Not terrible, but man, that eye. You know he's seen some things. You know he's seen some things, and those are the types of characters that are always a little bit harder for me. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, moving off of that, now we have Hashian. I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, but he's a young adult, a hunter, and he has a pet dog named Tao, and that's the big thing, right? He's a hunter, sort of like was mentioned prior, but again, we don't know if this is the hunter that TAMALA was talking about, just not that much information. He's also very protective of those that he loves and spends a lot of time with his mother, who's not been revealed so far, who makes armor. Now, Hashian here has a very, let's just say, I want to say generic, but it's just an archer look. He's got the feathers, he's got the green outfit. There's not a lot that speaks out to me about him just from this design. Although I do like the dog Tao has the little collar scarf thing that I totally would know the name of if it had a name. Totally wouldn't still be making this up. So next we have ZEKI, who is a Grimalkin, which, as an aside, is an archaic word for a specific type of cat and a word that's been used for evil cat characters in fiction for quite a while now. ZEKI is an adult who runs the general store and may attempt to sell you, well, let's just say less than reputable items. So needless to say, he sort of lives up to that Grimalkin name. It's also noted that he is pretty close to the cook. Now, this is an interesting character to me, not just because of the 4 ears, and yes, there are 4 ears, the robotic eye, a lot of rings showing off the attempt at showing off wealth, I should say. Attempting to show off his wealth. But I do like the lines on the cloak, the robe, going up the arms. They definitely give a mystic feel. He's got a lot of stuff about him that sort of speaks out, but it's the fact that he's also a cat person in this world. He's the only one that we've seen that hasn't been this sort of straightforward alternate humanoid, besides Einar, who's a golem and is a robot. This is our first living, breathing character, and it sort of makes me hopeful that in the future we might get a couple more characters of either the Grimalkin culture or of different variants to really spice up this world. So up next is ELOUISA, who's a very confusing character, I will say. She's an adult who studies the ruins around the village, has no shortage of crazy ideas, but occasionally gets one of those ideas right. And the thing that makes her questionable is that last section. She's rarely seen in the same location as her twin sister, the librarian. This could just be a play as to her doing two completely different things, but it could mean that she has a twin, and it's really hard to say at this point which one of those is true because we have not been given a librarian character yet, but there's going to be a library apparently. So from ELOUISA, I'm sort of scared away by the little, what would you call that thing on her head, the bandana, if you will, with the eye on it. It definitely gives a bit of a conspiracy vibe to the character, and that sort of scares me off, mixed with the purple in the outfit, and I'm not really sure how we should feel about her. That's just my worries. So then we have two more young adults who are actually both related. The first is Tish, a furniture crafter who moved to the village to help recover from a health condition. A common practice in the past, as it was thought that the countryside was healthier than being in the cities. And she loves accessorizing the yellow flower hair clip that she got from her brother. Now, before we jump into that, we see a very homely feel, bright colors, and, well, immediately you notice she's got all of the equipment to make furniture, so she looks like she's a hard worker, and from what I'm seeing here, she's supposed to be a more kind character, very nice, just from the design. So Tish's brother, Reth, is the most recently announced character. He is the cook at the local inn who was hired by ASHURA. He works day shift and is supposedly the one who's somewhat friendly with ZEKI. And through ASHURA's introduction, we are told that he is not very good at cooking, which can also be seen through his thoughts here about his all-lettuce vegetable soup. He also moved to the village with his sister and is described as somewhat rash. Now, straight away, I can't take my eyes off the necklace thing. It's really just right there. His outfit itself seems sort of old, sort of dirty, a little bit run down, very much the opposite of Tish's outfit, which was very clean, very nicely done. It just speaks to like this sort of lazy attitude, if I will. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll surprise me. Okay, so we met the siblings. What's harder than meeting siblings? Meeting a family. And what's worse than a family? A family of politicians. So first we have Ash. Ash is the beginning of our politician family here who runs the village. She's an elder and magistrate for the village, having been born into high society. She is frenemies with an unnamed duchess and is unhappily married to our next character, with whom she has a child. Kenji is an older adult, a bumbling politician and second child of a duke. Known for rambling on without really saying much and changing his mind easily, he's described as a somewhat untrustworthy character. And then the final character in this family, Kenyatta, who is a young adult. She's the daughter of Ash and Kenji, and despite this, she's basically described as someone attempting to distance herself from her parents. She seems to be a free spirit and is the only character that we've met who has yet to declare a path. This free spirit extends further, as despite being from a more noble family, she has no problems getting her hands dirty at the stable. Now, right away from the three of these, we do see a bit of wealth, especially out of Kenji and Ash. Although Kenyatta still has that same look, we see that she's also a little bit more carefree with it, especially with the little tooth necklace that she's wearing. It's fairly clear that they all come from a higher position, although with Kenyatta being a young adult and there potentially being romance in the game, it will be somewhat interesting to see the direction that they take that specifically. I would like to also note the green prominent in Ash and Kenyatta's little hoodie tied around her waist, or jacket tied around her waist. Basically the same. I wonder if that has any significance, but who knows. And finally, we have the farming family, the largest one that we've met so far. Delilah is the mother of the farming family and is deeply devoted to them, while being described as somewhat optimistic and stubborn, but also generous. Badru is the father of this family, who also works on the farm, running the produce side. He seems to have bad luck follow him around, but at least seems to have a decent sense of humor. So if we're just going to talk about these two right away. So we see that they're both dressed somewhat plainly, like we would expect from a farmer or a set of farmers. We can see Baju has a little bit of dirt on his, what would we call that, cloth. But the big thing that stood out to me about him was actually the necklace, how it's sort of got like half of a pendant on it. And I don't think we've seen the other half anywhere, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays in. From Delilah's perspective, we just sort of see somebody who would be working in either a field or inside, depending on the situation. Not a whole lot that stands out about their designs that tell me much, honestly. And then we move on to their children. The first is Neo, no clue if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who is the older brother in this family. Unlike Kenyatta, he's described as someone who helps the family out and also as being a helpless romantic. He also seems to possibly share some outlooks with his mother, as he does tend to see the best in people. And finally, our last character, Aoni, also no way to know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who is the youngest character that we've been introduced to so far. Despite this, he works as a mail carrier in the village and claims to be able to outrun anyone, while also not being the best at keeping secrets. So right away from these two, I noticed Neo has a little bit of dirt on his pants. Seems to be willing to work, but also seems to be dressed about the same, if not a bit better, than his parents, while Aoni, well, let's just say patchwork hand-me-downs is in the cards for these guys. They're really showing that they don't have a whole lot, and maybe things can get better, maybe they won't. Who knows? But that's really the life of the farmer, I guess. So that was it. That was all 18 characters that we've been announced to so far. Singularity 6 has recently stated that they're taking a break from releasing these character descriptions, but has also announced that sometime in the near future they may release new information, such as developer diaries, info on the world and landscapes, info on flora, fauna like the chappas, the lore of the world, the mechanics of the game, and on the characters. So maybe we'll have more to talk about regarding Palia soon. With that said, who are your favorite and least favorite characters in the game? Let me know in the comments below, and have a nice day.